Now let's get started. It's my great pleasure to have with me today Matthew Donato, who is the Associate Dean of the College and Executive Director for the Brown Center for Career Exploration. Now you may remember it was called Career Lab. That has a completely new design and focus that Matt's going to talk about. So I will hand it over to you, Matt, to give us all the exciting news about your center.
Thanks, Mikkel, and thanks for everyone who joined us today. I can't see everyone. I can see there are a number of participants in the meeting, so I'm really pleased to be able to talk with you today and answer questions, some of which were pre-submitted, some of which I know you can add to the open Q&A, and I'll try to get to hopefully all of the questions or as many as I can. And if I can't get to your question, and you still want to ask me the question, you can always feel free to email me through my personal email address, which is on the Career Center email page, but it's my first name, Matthew_Donato, my last name, @brown.edu. And you can easily find that on the Brown website or on the Career Center website. So I'd be happy to engage with you and your students as we move forward. I'm going to quickly share my screen, and I'd like to give maybe hopefully just a 5-minute primer on what has changed in the Career Center, because there certainly have been a lot of changes. A lot of changes since we launched the new Career Center brand this past August. And so I want to talk about sort of what's different about the Career Center. Hopefully everyone can see my brief slide presentation, which I'll go through quickly. But I want to talk about what this means and why we made these changes and how this is going to affect our operational structure and all of the support and resources that we can provide to your students. And this change truly is transformational. This is essentially going to entail a doubling of the Career Center staff over the next 2 years. And we've already started that process in the past 6 months, where we've hired some new staff, some of whom have begun here at the Career Center, some of whom will begin early in the spring semester. So we're really excited to be welcoming in new colleagues, as well as building up new support for programs and collaborations around campus that will directly add value to the student experience and help students navigate this career exploration process in new ways. I want to at least give a underpinning of why we made these changes. And really a lot of the change that we're undergoing was directly influenced by the president. President Paxson came to me and to my boss, who is Dean Zia, who's the dean of the college, back in the spring of 2021, and said, the Career Center is great. You guys do a fantastic job supporting students, but we really want to create a best-in-class Career Center among our peer institutions. And we want to invest in the center, but need some guidance on how to do that. So we worked with a group of alumni volunteers and alumni leaders, had lots of different stakeholder conversations between the spring of 2021 and the spring of 2022, and came up with a strategic plan to make investments in the Career Center with 2 really important objectives. The first objective is to align career exploration with the open curriculum. We really believe that talking about careers makes careers more accessible and inclusive for students, and it's not something that we've always been good at Brown. And we also know that career exploration, particularly at a school that values the liberal arts and really focuses on an open curriculum, career exploration is a really critical part of the learning experience of all students. So all students should be engaging in career exploration and should be engaging as early as possible. Not necessarily securing internships or opportunities, but at least engaging in the process. And I'll talk about what that looks like in a moment. The second key objective of our transformation was that we want all of the work we're doing to really energize the Brown ecosystem, not just on campus with our faculty and staff partners, but also away from campus with our alumni, our family and parent partners, and our employer partners. And we're thinking about and going to be launching lots of new ways for alumni, family, employers, and our campus colleagues to both volunteer with the center, to build collaborations and partnerships with the center, and to really help take the work that happens in many places on campus and align it under the principles of career exploration that we think are most important for students to engage in. So as we thought about these two objectives, aligning career exploration with the open curriculum and energizing the Brown ecosystem, we basically developed a framework for what the career exploration process at Brown should look like for our students. And we wanted to make sure this was relatively straightforward, easy to remember, and easy to engage in. And we came up with a model of what we're calling reflect, connect, and explore. And this is how we want students to go through the career exploration process here at Brown. We want students to reflect on their skills, their interests, and their values and their goals, and how those might relate to career possibilities or things that they're curious about exploring while they're here. As students begin to identify those things that they're curious about and might want to try out, we want students to connect with other people. That includes people on campus and away from campus. So it might be peers and faculty here on campus who have some information about different career paths. It might be mentors in the alumni community or network and contacts in the family and parent community. But there's lots of opportunities to connect already, and we're going to be building more opportunities for things like mentoring. And we think it's important for students to get practice telling their stories through these connection experiences, because that storytelling is a really important part of securing internships, securing research experiences, securing access to opportunities. So connection is one of the most important things that we do here in the center, and we're providing lots of opportunities for students to connect both on and away from campus. And then the final step in the process is to explore. We want students to not only be curious, but also take risks, to build confidence by building up their skill set. And we want them to develop their skills both away from campus, maybe an internship or research experiences, as well as on campus. So we're really supporting campus student employment in new ways and hoping that campus jobs will start to look more like internships through some work that we're doing with hiring managers and the HR department here on campus. And we know that campus jobs, through our conversations with lots of stakeholders, are a really important way that students maybe have a first career exploration experience when they get to Brown, or find their community when they're here at Brown. And then we're also investing in our professional pathways programs. Professional pathways are opportunities for students to take this process of reflect, connect, explore, and try it out within a professional pathway. And we are launching 5 distinct professional pathway areas, each of which will be led by an assistant dean in our office. And those pathway areas are arts and media, careers in the common good, finance and consulting, technology and tech ventures, and science and engineering. And so we're really excited to be able to help students not only develop knowledge in those areas around career, and help them think about roadmaps into different job opportunities and career pathways for themselves, but also to help students find those connections and find those opportunities to explore and try out internships or research experiences. So this is going to be a new area of focus for us, but something that I think is going to add significant value to many of our students. And then I want to briefly, and this is sort of my final slide right now, talk about what this looks like in practice. So in addition to launching our new name and sort of our new branding, we've also reorganized the center into 4 distinct programmatic teams that align with those elements of the career exploration process that I just outlined. So we have a career counseling team that really helps students to reflect and think about, again, those skills, values, and trust goals. We have a partner engagement team, which focuses on connections, both our alumni and family connections, as well as our employer partnerships. We have an exploration team that's focused on internship programs that we run, mostly through our Sprint program, as well as our campus student employment experiences. And we have, as I mentioned, a new professional pathways team that will be comprised of deans overseeing pathways in 5 distinct areas. And so right now, this was our staff at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of this sort of academic year. And you can see, as the president pointed out, we did a lot, but we didn't have a lot of resources to do that work. We actually traditionally have had one of the highest student to staff ratios among all of our peer institutions. So we're sort of winning in a category that we didn't want to be winning in. And we're actually going to be changing that very quickly. This fiscal year, we'll be hiring 7 new staff members, so growing our staff by 50%. We've already hired our new assistant dean for arts and media, as well as our assistant dean for tech and tech ventures, both of whom will start within the next 6 weeks. And then we also have a job posted for our assistant dean of finance and consulting, and we plan to have that position hired for before the end of the spring semester. And then we have hired our assistant director of counseling, our partner engagement manager, as well as our partner engagement associate director, and an assistant director on the student employment side. And we'll continue to add staff through FY25. And there's actually a couple of positions that aren't represented here that will likely be late FY25 or early FY26 additions to the staff. So this is a significant change for us, but again, we'll provide significant new resources and access for students who are thinking about either internships, thinking about connections, just thinking about coming in and talking to someone because they're not sure what they want to do, or they can come in and really engage in how to explore one of the 5 professional pathways. And I want to reiterate with the professional pathways, while they're somewhat broad pathways and they're kind of specific in different areas, there's going to be a lot of overlap in those pathways. So those deans on that team are going to be working really closely together to help students understand how a career in the common good might intersect with a career in technology, because that's pretty common, or how a career in finance and consulting might also align or overlap with a career in science and engineering. And so our goal is to help students be better at understanding how to navigate recruiting processes, how to navigate networking activities, and how to really understand what hiring might look like in these industry areas, or what grad school pathways might look like in these industry areas. And we know that students aren't just going to plug into one career pathway. They're probably likely to plug into many of them, or at least more than one, on an ongoing basis. And there's really no limits to how often students can connect into one of our 5 professional pathways. So I'm going to stop there, because as Mikkel knows, I'll just keep talking unless someone stops me. So I'm stopping myself. And I'm happy to actually start answering questions, because I know there were a lot of pre-submitted questions. I can see that there are some open questions in the Q&A. So I'm happy to kind of engage with those and to have a conversation with you guys.
Sure. Well, we got a few questions about the pathways. Seems like people are excited about that. So could you repeat again what the 5 pathways are?
Yeah, for sure. So our 5 pathways, and each of them is 2 words, so it sounds like more maybe. So the first pathway is arts and media. The second pathway is careers in the common good. And that's mainly like often nonprofit, social justice, community, government, impact, social impact kind of careers. There is finance and consulting. There is tech and tech ventures. And then there's science and engineering. So those are the 5 individual professional pathways.
Great. And so somebody was asking about how they get matched up. So you talked a little bit about that, where they may, a career counselor might say, there's some overlap. But if somebody walks in and they're in the wrong pathway, I'm assuming your team will direct them to the correct spot.
Yeah, so our goal is, always to meet students where they are. And I think oftentimes students come in saying they're interested in one thing, but sometimes we find out pretty quickly that they're actually interested in something else, or, we might have an idea for something that a student might want to try based on what they're telling us. And so there's really no, the professional pathways aren't going to be a program that students have to apply to or be admitted to or anything like that. Really, each of the deans who are managing a professional pathway are going to be managing sort of a set of resources, a set of events and programs, and a set of contacts that they can help connect students into that will perhaps support a student's journey towards exploring an internship or getting a research experience or just making a connection with somebody and having a conversation. So most of the deans won't do lots of individual advising appointments with students. They will likely do group advising sessions and have open hours where students can come in and ask questions. But really, the deans are going to be not only doing work to build sort of an infrastructure in the center around each pathway, they're also going to be making connections into departments where there are some natural connections. So for instance, you might imagine the tech and technology dean who we just hired and who actually is a Brown alum who graduated with a degree in computer science and has worked at places like LinkedIn. That dean will have deep connections into the CS department here at Brown, and will be working to support people in the department undergraduate group, be working with faculty to help think about like, hey, what are the opportunities that our students are most interested in? How can we in the Career Center and through our employer partnerships team build some connections into employer spaces where we know students are going to be? And how do we develop programs that are going to support those students? So, you know, I have no doubt that we're probably going to be launching things like mock interview programs for tech interviews, right? We've done that in the past, and that's a program that we'd like to continue. We've wanted to continue, but we never had the staffing to really make it happen every year. So now with our new dean position, we'll have someone who can oversee a preparation program for students in technology or interested in technology, and help really be the expert on how students can prepare for those careers, write those resumes, you know, get ready for those job interviews, navigate, you know, a hiring process that increasingly is less personal and more AI and technology driven. So, you know, I think we're going to get a lot of value out of the expertise that we're bringing in, and all of the deans that we're targeting to hire for the professional pathways program have usually had some industry experience. So I mentioned the dean we're bringing in now has had real life industry experience in a number of different tech firms, including LinkedIn. The person we just hired for arts and media has had experience in theater and performing arts. The person that is managing our Careers in the Common Good program and is also the director of our Professional Pathways program has had a long career in advocacy and nonprofit work. So I think like we're building a team that not only has experience in the academy, but also has real world experience outside the academy, and can hopefully have some expertise and authority that they can share with students around what recruiting and job pathway planning looks like.
That's fantastic. One of the questions we got was, could a student walk in right now and be plugged in with these pathways? Are they good to go at the moment?
We're still building them. So I want to acknowledge like there is sort of, you know, there's a little bit of maybe a time lag. So as I mentioned, we only have one of our deans in place. That's the dean for Careers in the Common Good. And our other deans will definitely be in place before the end of this semester. Our three of the four other deans will be in place by the end of this semester. And then we're hoping to hire our science and engineering dean pretty early in the FY25 timeframe, hopefully before the start of the next academic year. So we don't have everything built out yet. I'll readily admit that. But I would still encourage students to come in and meet with somebody. So even though we don't necessarily have all of this expertise on staff, there's still a lot of work that we can do to help students think about targeted job searches in any of these areas. There are resources that we can connect students into. There are certainly networks that students should be accessing. And there are ways to search for opportunities, whether they're internship or full-time opportunities in all of these industry sectors. And meeting with a peer career advisor or perhaps a career counselor, which you can do, you know, as early as you want in the semester, is probably a really good activity, even though we don't have all of our deans in place yet. We do still have resources that can support students.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about how the deans in the Career Center work with the academic deans to make sure that students are, you know, getting the right coursework that they need for their career goals?
Yeah. So all of the deans who work in the center, including me, are all also academic advising deans. So we are all experts on, you know, how to advise students through choosing courses, thinking about concentration selection, thinking about degree completion requirements. We're usually not experts on concentration requirements, but over my years, I've developed some knowledge of that and some expertise, and we have, you know, good relationships with faculty who are concentration advisors. So, you know, I think this question comes up a lot, particularly with sophomores. And this year, this past semester in the fall of 23, I had the opportunity to co-teach our Exploring Career Options course with Dean Zia. So this is a course that we've taught. This is the fourth semester that we're teaching the course. The first time we taught it was in spring of 2021. It's a course exclusively for sophomores to basically over the course of a semester, take you through all aspects of career exploration. And we dive really deep on those reflect, connect, explore activities over the course of 15 weeks. And it's a half credit course, so there's actually a grade involved with it. And one of the things that we talk about really early in the course is concentration selection. And the fact that all of the sophomores who are in class, whether they've declared yet or will be declaring by the end of their sophomore year, probably have questions or maybe are feeling anxiety about how concentration choice might affect their career choices or the career possibilities for themselves. And we try to dispel the notion that your concentration has to be connected to your career, because it really doesn't. There are certainly some strong ties between concentration and careers, but it's not something where there has to be a one-to-one relationship. And many students see it that way. Many students feel that if I want to have a job on Wall Street, I should be an econ concentrator. I have to do that. But if you actually look at the data, and unfortunately I don't have it handy right now, or otherwise I would share it. If you look at the data, that's not what the data shows. The data actually shows that you can do lots of different things. There are lots of different concentrations that map onto finance, just like there are lots of different concentrations. We show a diagram of alumni outcomes after 10 years, and we show students in the class what alumni concentrated in and what they ended up doing after 10 years. And you can see there are people who are history concentrators who went on to be physicians. There are people who are English concentrators who went on to be lawyers. There are people who are econ concentrators that went on to work in the social justice area. There are people that are econ concentrators that went to work in finance. So, there's strong connections between some concentrations and career outcomes, but it's not destiny if you choose a concentration that's not necessarily related to exactly what you want to do. And I encourage my advisees to study the things that they're most interested in, because frankly, they're going to do better academically. They're going to enjoy their time at Brown more. And if they need a skill for their career that's not necessarily present in their concentration, we can talk about how to get that. And again, we're building out infrastructure to support students to get the skills that they need outside of the classroom if they're interested in finance. So we'll be doing a lot more programs around how to build up some of your how to develop finance skills if you're not a finance major, right? Or an econ major, excuse me. How to build up some of your skills in in a technical field if you're not necessarily a CS concentrator. And so I think it's really important for students not to limit themselves in terms of their concentration, but also to understand any concentration at Brown helps you develop a really deep and rich skill set. In the past, we might have called these things soft skills, things like critical thinking or analytical abilities, writing and communication abilities. We've actually stopped calling them soft skills because they're not. They're actually skills that employers are looking for. And in fact, many employers tell us they prize those types of skills even higher than they prize some of the technical skills that students might bring to the table, because most employers are going to train you on exactly what you need to know or what systems you need to be expert on when you go in. Sure, there are some professions that require you to have coding skills and have certain technical skills, which I acknowledge, but having those skills and having skills around communications, critical thinking, logical reasoning, having empathy, having collaborative, team-oriented skills. These are things that are really highly present among Brown students, and there are things that aren't really soft skills because employers are looking for them. So we talk with students more and more about, you may be an English concentrator, but you may be bringing a lot of skills to the table for that job in finance that someone who just studied accounting and investments and corporate finance, maybe they're not bringing those skills to the table too. So you might have something to add, and that's part of telling your story. That's why we always talk in the center about getting good at telling your story and presenting yourself, and then sort of marketing yourself is a really great skill to have, which you can practice by talking to alumni, by talking to parents and family members and peers. So it kind of, all of that process of reflect, connect, explore, it's a very iterative process, and there's not one place where students start. So, you may start in explore, you may be ready to get an internship your first year, which is great, but then you may quickly go back to reflect after you had that internship and decided you hated it, and you might need to reassess why did I hate that? What wasn't great about it? What did I learn from it? What did I learn about myself from it? And how do I want to then move forward with my career search? Because maybe that's not the job that I want to do in 4 years when I graduate.
That's really exciting. It really mirrors the open curriculum that we have here.
100%. Yeah.
So we got a lot of excitement, I think, about the course that you mentioned. Could you say the title of the course again and
Yeah.
if it's being offered anytime soon?
So the course is typically a fall only course. So we offer it each fall. The course number, if people are looking for it on Courses at Brown, which anybody can access, just go to Courses at Brown. It's UNIV 0456. And you have to, when you look for it in Courses at Brown, you have to make sure you change it to the fall 2023 semester. But it's a course for sophomores only. We had about 103 sophomores take the course this past year. It was, it's usually a very highly rated course. Students are usually really engaged in the course. It's a 1 day a week course. We teach on this semester, we taught on Mondays for an hour and a half, and then students had a discussion section, which was led by an undergraduate TA once a week. And the course isn't really focused on like grading, like we don't give a lot of hard assignments, but it is focused on participation. So, we want students to engage in all of the work, to do the reflection exercises, to attend class and attend section every week. So it's really like more of an attendance and participation based course than a really hard course where we're assigning problem sets or essays or things like that. And we have students who come to the course and they're just taking the course because they have no idea where to get started. And then we also have other students who are like, I'm just not confident in my ability to do this stuff, to make a connection. And we have activities where students, we do strengths assessment. So we do Clifton Strengths. That's one of the assessments we do in the center. And we do that for everyone in the course. And then we have students compare their strengths and talk about how their strengths manifest themselves in their coursework or in their extracurricular activities. We have this year, we did an employer panel where we brought recruiters to campus to give students an inside look at how a recruiter approaches the recruiting process. We bring alumni to the class and did an alumni networking session where one of the class sessions was reserved for an online networking group networking activity where we had about 20 alumni spend an hour and a half sort of with students rotating in and out of these sort of conversations for 15 minutes. So that was a great opportunity where many students followed up on those initial conversations and had a further networking conversation with an alum. We do resume and cover letter writing. We have students do an elevator pitch. We teach about public narratives and how students can tell their story better. And then the final exercise for the course before the final exam is something that we call Odyssey planning, where we have students envision different futures for themselves, like a 5-year plan. And we have students do 3 different versions of their 5-year plan, and they discuss that with their peers. And that's usually a really fun exercise for students to practice, thinking about their skills, values, interests, how they might or might not work out, and how with different circumstances and changing different variables, they might have a completely different future for themselves. And that's usually a really eye-opening exercise leading into the reflective final exam that we do. So the syllabus, I think, should be available through Courses at Brown. And if anyone's interested in it, I'm happy to share it as well.
So say I'm a junior or a senior and I've missed this opportunity to take your course.
Yeah.
Are some of these activities and resources also available within the center?
Yeah, the good news is we just took a lot of the stuff that we already do here and we made it into a course. So if you're a student that wants to come in and be a regular with us, which we would welcome, you can get a lot of, if not all of the information from the course by coming in and meeting with a career counselor, a couple times, coming in and learning how to engage and use tools like Brown Connect, coming to some of our workshops. So we've actually even just taken some of the workshops that we deliver every semester and kind of repackage them into the course. So, a student who didn't get to take the course as a sophomore wouldn't get that semester-long experience of being in class with a peer, with a number of peers, but would get the experience by coming in and having individual meetings, by attending workshops, and by engaging in other events and programs that we have.
Right. That's good news to a lot of folks here listening. We've had a lot of questions about, we've got folks who their students are about to start in the fall. We've got some that are first year, a lot of senior families and juniors. Can you talk about sort of the life cycle of a student's interaction with the center as they go through their time at Brown? And what they should be doing, at certain points during the year. We've got a lot of questions on that.
Yeah, and I'm also just kind of scrolling through the Q&A a little bit. There was a question that relates to this about seniors. So I think some of the changes will support current seniors as well as graduating seniors, like seniors who will be graduating and then will become alumni in the summer. So one thing that you should know as parents and family members is like our support of Brown students doesn't stop at graduation. So we still work with alumni who are 0 to 3 or even sometimes 0 to 5 years out. So like as an alum, if you graduate in May, you could still come back in on June 1st and do an advising session with a counselor, access all of our online resources, attend a career fair in the fall. Like there's no limit to like what you can do as a recent graduate. So the support doesn't stop on May 27th, 28th, whatever day graduation is this year. So that's good, hopefully. And there's really no right time or wrong time to engage in career support. So if you're a senior, if you have a student that's a senior who's never come into the Career Center, it's okay. It's not too late. We would welcome seniors coming in to meet with a counselor, meet with a peer career advisor. We know that happens, and some students just aren't ready to engage in thinking about careers early in their time at Brown, and that's fine. So come in as a senior, and there's still a lot of work that we can support you with towards thinking about, getting a job or thinking about sort of what the next step is. We would prefer that students come in early, and I want to also strike a balance. Like we want students to have 4 years to do reflect, connect, explore. We want students to have 4 years where they can make connections with people, try things out, do campus jobs, internships, research experiences. We also want them to reflect deeply on themselves and understand a little bit more about who they are and how that might, impact their career choices. But we also know that like for first year students, there's a lot going on. First year is a really stressful time. I am a first year advisor at Brown, first and second year advisor. And I know first years are going through a lot, just in some cases being away from home for the first time, maybe being in a new country for the first time, adjusting to life on campus, adjusting to the academic rigor of Brown, thinking about how to navigate shopping period, getting used to that new roommate who might be annoying or who might be really awesome and you just never get tired of talking to them and that's distracting you. So there's a lot going on. We don't want to put too much pressure on students to be like, oh, you also have to start thinking about what you're doing when you leave Brown in 4 years. So I don't really, I don't know if I should say this publicly. I don't really care if first years come in September or October or even November. What I would like is during your first year, I think it would be great for first year students to come in and meet with a peer career advisor, right? Like that would be a great first activity. And in fact, we usually ask students before they meet with a career counselor to meet with a peer career advisor first, because the peer career advisors, we have 40 peer career advisors. The peer career advisors have open hours, usually 5 and sometimes 6 days a week. And if you can't come in for open hours, you can always email the peer career advisors at peercareeradvisors@brown.edu. And they will do a virtual appointment. They'll set up a time to meet with students outside of the open hour sessions. They can review resumes and cover letters. Peer career advisors just help you get oriented as a student to what the center does and can help you get started on some of those really basic activities like writing resumes and cover letters, or how to use Brown Connect or LinkedIn to find networking contacts. And then when the students may be ready or thinking about more deeply like what they're interested in, then it's probably a great opportunity to meet with a career counselor. And maybe that would happen by the end of first year. Maybe that wouldn't happen until sophomore year, but I don't try to put a lot of pressure on first year students to do a lot unless they're ready, unless they're saying they want to do things like internships. If that's the case, then for sure, come in and we'll support that. We'll help you find the connection into opportunities that you might be interested in. I would say that, about usually half, maybe 40 to 50% of first year students usually have some type of internship or research experience after their first year. Many first year students choose to go home over the summer and maybe go back to a job that they had in high school, like maybe being a camp counselor or working in a retail environment. That's all great. Like that's all good stuff. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And you're not gonna close a door to a career opportunity by going home after the first year, after your first year at Brown for the summer. And I would also say that we encourage first-year students to also engage and look for campus employment opportunities. That was something that we talked about in orientation this year. Campus employment is a great way to build your resume, get some confidence, develop some skills, and in some cases, maybe even explore an interest, right? Like every year, there are offices on campus that do really cool professional things like advancement, alumni relations, like communications, like the investment office, like the human resources office. They all hire student interns, student workers. And, if you're interested in those things or you think there's a skill set, definitely go get a campus job. It's a great way to make connections beyond maybe your dorm or your peer group at Brown. For second-year students, I think there is a little bit more tendency to start thinking about careers. Some of that is like you get pressure over the summer from your parents, family, and friends, like, hey, what are you thinking about doing when you graduate? What are you majoring in at Brown? What internships have you had? Like, you get those questions, and I think students come back sophomore year feeling a little bit more anxious about it. And as I mentioned, it also gets tied up into concentration choice. And I do think sophomore year summer is a great summer to try something out. If you think you want to go work on Wall Street, then there's definitely some milestones that you're going to need to hit in the spring of your sophomore year to apply for an internship that wouldn't be until your summer of your junior year. So the timing is a little weird. And then you would still have the summer of your sophomore year coming up. If you're interested in something in an internship in your junior year, I would say for your sophomore year, do a completely different type of internship. So if you think you're going to do an investment banking internship in the junior year summer, then do an internship in screenwriting in LA for your sophomore year. Like, just do something that's completely different that you're interested in that would be really fun and engaging. There's no downside to it, and it might actually lead to you maybe exploring an interest that you didn't think was possible. And that might actually turn into a path where you say, oh, maybe I don't want to do that investment banking thing. Maybe I want to go do this Hollywood thing. Like, I'm just using that as a weird example. I do think like internships the summer after your junior year often can lead to return offers, whether that's in banking, consulting, technology, or in other fields as well. There's plenty of nonprofit employers who hire interns the summer of their junior year and say, oh, you were great. Like, we have a position that we're going to open next year. You should, apply for it, or we'd love to hire you for that. It doesn't always happen, but it can happen. And so I think summer of your junior year is often a time to try an internship that might relate to what you think you want to do. But again, if you're not sure yet by the summer of your junior year and you have an internship and it doesn't actually turn into a full-time job, that's okay. Like, we have lots of students who change their plans. So I know I'm saying in this presentation a lot, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And that you may not buy it, but I can tell you, like, from my experience working with students over the last 20 years in career services, it really does work out for most students. And we're here to help students understand how to, again, like, reflect on those experiences. If they're changing course after their junior year summer, helping them think about how to target opportunities, helping them think about how to make the right types of connections, and then helping them think about how to plan for and make a plan for like what that next step is going to look like if they didn't get a return offer, or they decided they didn't like the thing they did the summer of their junior year. It really is okay. And yeah, it can be stressful, it can be difficult on students and probably on family members as well. I will have a daughter in college in about a year, so I will be in your shoes on the other side of the desk with the Zoom call, and I'm looking forward to that. And I may have some of the same questions you do, but I also know that, like, these are the choices that students are making about their first job or their first, maybe grad school or their first destination after Brown. The good news is it's just that, it's a first destination. Many students are going to change jobs, or alumni, I should say. Many alumni are going to change jobs within 6 months, 12 months, 24 months after graduation, or they're going to go back to school after 2 or 3 years, and they may switch paths from there. And so the first destination is just that. It's a first thing that students are doing, and it's all tied up into that career exploration process. That's why we want students to get good at reflection, connection, and exploration, because that's going to be something that they engage in continually from the time they graduate through, maybe the first 10 years after school, maybe even longer than that. I know I had probably 5 or 6 jobs before I came to Brown, 9 years ago. And fortunately, I've been at Brown for 9 years and I love my job here. But I definitely took me a while to get to that one thing that I really wanted to do for longer than a couple of years.
Yes, absolutely. I can relate to that as well. We have had some parents who are talking about students who might be a little bit more reticent to go seek help, or they might be a little bit more reserved or shy.
Yep.
Do you have tips for parents on how they can work with their student, or encourage them to go out and get this this support from your team and elsewhere?
Yeah, a couple things. One, make sure your students know, or I don't know if you telling them this would work, but I want students to know that it's okay to come in here without knowing what you want to talk about. A lot of students think they shouldn't come into the Career Center unless they have an idea of a job that they're interested in, they're about to apply to something, or that they've already decided on their career path. It's actually the conversations where students come in and they're like, someone told me to come in and I'm not really even sure what questions to ask. Those are the most fun conversations for us. So please, know that you don't even have to know what questions to ask. We'll ask the questions with you and for you so that you can get, your students, I should say, can get the most out of this. The second thing is you may want to start, a student may want to start by meeting with a peer advisor first before meeting with a career counselor. Or they may want to meet with a peer advisor multiple times before meeting with a career counselor. Our peer advisors are great. They're highly trained. Many of them have been through the same, had the same feelings of doubt and anxiety that your students might be facing if they're apprehensive about coming in. They're really great at helping ground students and helping also connect students in with other networks on campus. So that could be really helpful to feel connected and to be talking to someone who's a peer and maybe not a scary old person like me. And then, the third thing is to let students, a lot of students feel like they are alone and they're not alone. So they're definitely not the only student that doesn't have it figured out or doesn't even know what questions to ask. Most students don't have it figured out yet here at Brown. And that's okay too. We try to normalize that. We actually don't even say it's okay. We say it's normal. It's normal not to necessarily know what you're doing. So I should actually stop saying it's okay at this point. And then the last thing I'll say is, if you are trying to engage with your student about careers, I gave this advice at an orientation or a family weekend presentation that I did back in October. If you're trying to talk to your student about careers, I would suggest not necessarily asking the question, hey, have you thought about an internship yet? Have you been to the Career Center? Have you done this? Have you done that? I know that's my tendency too. I do that with my 17-year-old all the time. But my advice would be to say, hey, what are you studying? What are the things that you're really enjoying engaging in at Brown, both in and out of the classroom? And then say hey, have you thought about how you might do more of that this summer? Are there things that you've looked at that might relate to that? You did this cool project for your sociology class. Is there a way that you might be able to continue to do that work in a summer internship or in a research experience? Have you ever talked to anyone on the Career Center about that? I heard that they have really, great counselors and peer advisors who can help you think about how to take those things and turn them into a work experience or a skill development experience. So I'd approach it that way rather than saying, have you been to the career office? Do you have an internship? Do you know what you're doing? I know that's my tendency too as a parent, but I do tend to find, even in my conversations with students, finding out what's resonating with them, what they're excited about, what they're interested in first, and then saying, have you thought about how that might relate to what you want to do, opens up conversation in a much more productive way. And also, indicates to them that you're interested in like what they're interested in. And that's hopefully a more productive way to approach some of the stressful stuff around careers and thinking about internships and things like that.
That's great advice. I have a college freshman, so
There you go. Good go,
I'm
Mikhail.
keyed in with this. I do want to make a plug for another webinar we have on February 8th, which is going to be on off-campus semester internships, because we've had a lot of questions about internships. So I want to let folks know that if they want to tune in for that one, we'll talk a little bit more about internships at that time. We've had some questions. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I could try to do some rapid fire because I know we only have like 10 minutes. I can do.
Yeah. Why don't you do a rapid fire round? That would be amazing.
I'm just gonna go through some of the open
Yes.
questions here. So how do students set up appointments with the Career Center office? So you could go, a student can go into Handshake. I will quickly share my screen because I want you to see what it looks like from your student's side. This is my presentation. This is, sorry, go to this tab. This is what Handshake looks like. So you go to the front page of Handshake. You can say, oh, I want to go look at what resources the Brown University Career Center has. Here's how I set up an appointment. Right now, my access, they messed up my student account, so my access is messed up right now. But like normally you can see like what appointments are available. When those appointments are available, you can choose to meet with a career counselor. You can choose what career counselor you want to meet with. You can also find jobs in Handshake. This is our primary job posting platform. You can see we have lots and lots of summer internships open right now. That's one of the, this is a big time between January and April are busy times for internships. The busiest months for internship postings, new internship postings, are February, March, and April. So if your student hasn't gotten started on internships yet, it's okay. There's going to be thousands of internships that get posted through Handshake and hundreds that are coming through that are really targeted to Brown students. Students can find great internships in Brown Connect. This is another resource that we have for students that you may have heard of. If you're interested in internships, you can do advanced searches here. You can find internships and alumni to network with. So I highly recommend Brown Connect. And let's say I saw someone here saying, let's look for coding. Maybe there's some coding internships available. Yes, you'll see many of the internships here are also cross-posted in Handshake. So you can choose to use whichever system you want to look for internships. But one thing I will note for your students, and you can impress them with your knowledge when they're asking you about internships. Whenever a student goes into Brown Connect and sees an internship that has this little brown shield next to it, that indicates that this internship was offered by a Brown alum, parent, or family member and is being prioritized for Brown students. So either these internship employers are only hiring Brown students for these internships, or they're giving preference to Brown students as part of the internship search process. So these are really great opportunities. We typically get 600 to 700 Bruno opportunities. That's what we call these reserved opportunities for Brown students. And they don't always all get filled every year. So if your student's looking for an internship and maybe wants to like really improve their chances of getting noticed, look for those Bruno internship opportunities. Students don't have dedicated counselors here in the center, but if they like a counselor and they want to continue to meet with that counselor, our counselors are always willing to accommodate that. So if a student meets with Amy, who's one of our counselors, and develops a good rapport, then Amy will always be willing to set aside time to meet with that student. So that's something that students can arrange, with their counselor when they meet with them, but we don't pre-assign career counselors to students. How do we recommend students start the process for summer internships? I would say if you haven't gotten started at all, maybe start by meeting with a peer career advisor to get your documents ready, your cover letter, your resume stuff, so that you feel like you have at least the baseline set of materials that you might need to apply for internships. One thing, there was a question that was pre-submitted about hey, my student has applied to dozens, maybe even hundreds of internships and wasn't hearing back. That's pretty common if you're doing internship applications like that. It's a scattershot method. So you're kind of applying to all of these internships on Handshake, maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe 70. It takes up a lot of time and energy and mental energy. And then, yeah, you don't hear back from any of them. one of the things that we talk about in the Exploring Career Options class is that when you're looking at internships on places like Handshake, those are good opportunities with employers who want to recruit at Brown, but they're also recruiting at other schools. When you see internships on places like LinkedIn or Indeed, they're available to everyone out in the world. So when you apply to those types of opportunities, especially at big organizations that are popular and well-known, you're going to be one of probably hundreds, maybe thousands of applicants, and it's really hard to get noticed. What we tell students in our Exploring Career Options class is that up between 60 and 80% of internships and job opportunities are never posted on those job boards. They're posted maybe internally at a company's website, or they're not necessarily posted at all. They're posted and they're understood to be available to people in the know, but they're not necessarily available on places like Indeed, LinkedIn, and in some cases even Handshake. So how do you find those 60 to 80% of internships that are never posted anywhere? You have to network your way into those organizations and those industries. And we talk with students a lot about being more targeted than scattershot in their application processes. It's probably a better use. The general rule of thumb that we have when we talk to students about the job search process is 70-20-10. Spend 70% of your time networking and making connections, having conversations that might lead to knowledge about jobs that aren't posted places, or might even lead to someone creating a job for you, which does happen not infrequently. Spend 20% of your time doing those types of applications in Handshake or LinkedIn, like find jobs and find things that you think are interesting and apply to them. And then spend 10% of your time finding organizations that you really are interested in. Maybe you don't have a contact there, or maybe there's not an alumni connection, and you're just going to kind of apply or contact them, sort of like a cold call kind of thing, and see if you can make a connection on your own. So if you're spending 10 hours a week on your job search, spend 7 hours networking, spend 2 hours submitting applications and searching job boards, and spend 1 hour just finding cool organizations and sending out messages and trying to make connections. That would be more efficient than spending all of your time applying to 80 internships that are posted on LinkedIn or Handshake that are maybe going to be, your chances of getting a response aren't always super great. So sorry, that's just
that's great advice.
thought on that one.
We probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 other quick ones.
So can a first-year student get on-campus jobs and internships post finishing first year? Yes, they can. And if they need help with that, definitely we can help them think about internships and campus jobs. Which pathway would aspiring literary writers join? Arts and media would probably be a great one to plug into. Careers in the common good could be also interesting. But yeah, I think those two would be really cool for someone interested in literature and media. Can a second semester senior take much advantage of these pathways? Yes, and they can still take advantage of the pathways when they graduate. So if they're still planning even after graduation, they can still connect in with the pathways for sure. Tech internships, yes, you can make an appointment with any of our career counselors and we can have a conversation about that. And then, as I mentioned, our tech dean will be starting in about, I think, 4 weeks or a little less than 4 weeks. So he will be in place and also be someone that you can contact about internships for the summer. Students as a freshman using Indeed and Handshake would benefit from more support. We will have lots of seminars and workshops. In the second semester, we repeat some of the ones from first semester. And so would love to have him come in and sorry, I'm not sure if it's him. Okay. Love to have him come in and talk with a peer career advisor or a career counselor. So definitely should do that and get maybe more into the career exploration process. Increasing on-campus jobs. Yes, we don't have work study at Brown. So any student is eligible for any campus job. Yes, we have usually upwards of 600 or 700 campus jobs open at any given time. So you can almost always find something that hopefully is interesting and will also give you a little bit of spending money on the side. Data on the percentage of students participating in on-campus RA, TA jobs and summer internships. we have a lot of students who are TAs, like lots and lots of students. We also just raised our TA pay rate to $18 an hour. So if your student's interested in being a TA, they also get paid pretty well for that. I don't know the percentage of students who are undergraduate TAs or residence assistants, RAs, but Brown has a very peer-driven culture and collaborative culture on the peer support side. So, you know, a lot of students do things like Meikle-John peer advising, residential peer advising, TAing. I would say it's probably a pretty high percentage, but unfortunately, I don't know the number off the top of my head. So
I
don't know
think
if I have
we've
time.
done a lot. Matt,
Okay, I'll
you've
try to
been
do rapid fire as much as I
amazing.
can. If anyone does have questions, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm happy to try to respond as quickly as I can. Or you can send your student in to talk with someone on our team or talk to me. I also have open hours, Dean's open hours, so students can find me if they want to find me.
We'll see everyone soon. Thank you. Have a great afternoon wherever you are in the world.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.